Boom. Hello. And hello. Welcome
Hi.
to the Canadian Bro Show. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the host of the founder of the Canadian Bro Show, and the handsome gentleman to my left, although he is filming in Vancouver at the Vancouver Library in his own professional studio. The only person I know that has a professional studio in the Vancouver Library, any public library, is none other than Mr. Johnny Leister, the co-host of The Most. And we are extremely excited about today's show because I'm going back into history. First of all, the show, episode 66, is, the title of the show, of course, on the ticker below, is I Saw Elvis Presley Live in 1977. And I did. And it was an incredible experience, and that'll be the first. I'll start the show off with my experience. And essentially, this show is really about Johnny and I, love of music and arts. Anything to do with the arts we love. We love film, we love theater, we love music, we love writing, we love reading, radio.
Artsy.
Yeah, we're very, and it's just, that's the way we grew up. I met Johnny in 1972 in Kitsilano, and I just bought my first, I had a job, a paper route, and I spent $150 on a Pioneer receiver and a nice turntable and Wharfdale speakers, and I put a purple light in the basement. I moved down to the basement, and I started I was 12, 13 at that time, and that's when life really started to open up for me.
Pauly's home disco.
And I'm telling you, it was. I loved music, and I loved reading and writing, and that's why they're doing this. Johnny and I want to discover all of the amazing live concerts that we have seen over the decades. Johnny and I have been around for a little bit. I don't want to get into ageism, but I just turned 61 and Johnny's 60, and we are the epitome of the 60s are the new 50s, if not the mid 40s. And if you take care of yourself, you got a little bit of luck, and you've got some good genes, and you work at it, you can do it as well. But let's get right into this show, Johnny. I just want to talk about this incredible experience. I was blessed. My favorite iconoclast when I was a very young man, probably about 7 or 8, I discovered a couple of people. One was Bruce Lee, and the other was Elvis Presley. And of course, our most recent episode, which is episode 66, is Bruce Lee, the master of life, which is currently going. If you like Bruce Lee, it's an excellent episode. Please check it out. But we thought we'd follow up with our favorite and really just capture everybody's attention. This new episode 67. Thank you for joining us. It's pretty good, and this is a true story. I saw Elvis Presley live in 1977, and it was Elvis's last tour. So we just want to remember and talk about our favorite live music concerts and have some fun with it. And I've got 10, and Johnny's got a bunch, but I'll start this off right away, Johnny. And in 1976,
Go ahead,
what's
Paul.
that?
I just said you have a great story to tell.
Oh, it's incredible. Well, I just gave you a little bit in the pre-show, but in 1976, my mom, she knew I was in love with Elvis. I played his music all the time when I was living upstairs on the 3rd floor of our place. And then I moved to the basement, and that didn't stop. And so she wanted to buy the Elvis Presley tickets because he was on a tour, which ended up being his last world tour. And he was just coming from Hawaii, I think, before stopping into the West Coast. Not stopping in Vancouver, unfortunately. Elvis did play, and I'll mention this later, at Empire Stadium, as the Beatles did, back in the late 50s, early 60s. And that's another part of the episode. But my mom said, look, I want to buy you tickets to go see Elvis. And I said, fantastic. Where are they? And she goes, well, the only tickets I could get was in Portland, and that's in late January, just after your birthday. I said, cool, that's great. But I didn't know about it until my birthday. She didn't tell me at Christmas. She bought me presents and everything, but for my birthday, and she bought a ticket for my sister and myself. I think I turned 12, 1977, January 11th, I turned 12. My sister was 10. And when we got the tickets, we knew we were going on a road trip, which I loved as a kid. We were going to Portland to go see Elvis Presley live at the old Rose Garden. that the Portland Trailblazers used to play professional basketball in way back in the day, and I used to go see games with the Seattle Supersonics at the Kingdome, and then go see the Rose Garden. And Brooke and I, or whoever the friend was, mostly Brooke, we would take a road trip down, or we would get an adult to drive us and drop us off, or we'd take the bus. Because back then,
can I interject for just 1 second, and then you
Sure.
can continue? You ought to turn this story into a screenplay.
I know.
The trip
I
to
know. Well,
Seattle-
that's why I have to utilize your writing. But anyways, it's a true story. So we're on the road trip. We get down to Portland, and we get into it. We check into a Motel 6. Now, of course, I'm 12 years old. My sister's 10. We're not driving down. I'm certainly not going to go on the bus alone. My mom's girlfriend at the time, Barb, we used to call her Barb, was a huge Elvis Presley fan, and she just absolutely loved him as much as I did. My sister loved him too, but I mean, everybody loved Elvis. And so she drove us down. We checked in the Motel 6. We went to the concert early, and we found our seats, and I was very disappointed. In my opinion, at that time, I had the worst seat in the entire arena. I was really actually quite pissed for a 12-year-old boy. But because it was a birthday present, and my mom wasn't there, I just said, suck it up, try to make the best of it, and ended up being an amazing seat. And then we wandered around the Rose Arena. We got some fries and gravy, and Barb got a beer or a cider or whatever, a glass of wine, I can't remember. Yeah. And then we waited for the concert to start, and he was supposed to start at 7:30, I think. And the place was packed. I mean, the Rose Garden could hold for a basketball game 18,000. When they didn't have the basketball, even though the basketball court was under a protective area that they covered it with, they could get another 5,000, 4,500 on that ground level facing the stage. And my seat was directly the very last seat on the third level to the left-hand side, and my head was literally below the spotlight that was one of the many spotlights it was going to be on Elvis throughout the entire concert.
Wonder you can still see.
Well, I could, but I was so small. I was 12 years old. I was like $1.05 wet at that time. I was really skinny and small, but and I was so excited. And Elvis was late, and at that time in Elvis's life, unbeknownst to us, this was his last tour. We didn't know that. He had ballooned up to about 400 pounds. And Colonel Parker was working him like crazy. He was making so much money, but
he liked his peanut butter and banana sandwiches, from what I
and bacon and banana sandwiches, absolutely. And he liked a lot more than that. And
that sounds revolting.
well, that's what he liked. And a lot of people were saying that was the last meal he had when he was sitting on the throne. But anybody can hear any story. But I was there. This was live, and he was about 30 minutes late.
Pun intended. And
I knew that at the time he was into pill popping and booze, and he'd blown up, and he was just tired, and he looked terrible, to be honest. But I didn't see him until he finally came out 30 minutes late. The band started, the crowd was going crazy. They covered off the first 150 feet of the front of the stage, was closed up by security guards and gates, these metal gates, to stop the throngs, thousands of women and some men that were just going to go ballistic when they opened the gates because they wanted to get up close. They wanted Elvis to sweat on them. They wanted, saliva to pop out of his mouth onto their forehead, or one of the hundreds of silk scarves that he was wearing touched them. And so before the concert started, Barb took us down to the first aid area, and there was literally 300 or 400 cots prepared in the area because every concert. Well, once they opened the gates, all the women, they would, if not trample each other to get close to the stage. As soon as
perfectly
Elvis,
rational behavior.
It really is, and I remember this concert as clear as that day and that night, especially since we're doing the show. So many memories came flooding back to me because for some reason I have a good memory, and then we came back to the thing, and I'm over the bad seat choice, and I look down and I finally see Elvis straight down on the left hand side of where I was sitting because I was the last seat below the potlight or the spotlight. I could see Elvis because he was so huge. He was bigger than everybody else. He was massive. And he was wearing a white and gold sequin outfit, and his hair, and he had handlebars, huge handlebar black.
Did he have the Captain Marvel cape?
Oh, of course. Of course. Cool. Are you kidding me? It was incredible. I mean, you could find the album. If you can find the LP, and they call it the Hawaiian Tour for some reason, but I guess that's where he started off the whole thing. And anyway, so do you remember we used to go to concerts, and one of the other concerts I'll mention later, they had these little wax-covered Coca-Cola cups.
Sure.
And I saw somebody hand Elvis one of these cups. And they were screening him off from everyone, but I was looking directly on top of him, so I could see everything very clearly. And he did a shot of whatever that was, barbiturates, uppers, a mixture of booze, who knows. Then he did a second one, and then finally, before reaching the stage, he did a third one. And that's when he came on stage, it was absolute pandemonium. The hair on the back of my neck at 12 years old, I didn't have much hair on my neck, but we all do. It stood up. And I was electrified. The crowd went nuts, and they opened the gates. And Barb, who was our, she was taking care of Sarah and I. She left about 3 songs into the concert and went down. She couldn't stand it anymore, and she told us where she would be, and that was the first aid area. Anyways, concert goes on. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. He doesn't miss a single. He's got a strong set. He's got about 90 minutes set. And then he would do 3 encores in this particular one, maybe 4. And he just couldn't get out. The crowd was going. It was electrifying, Johnny. It was the most amazing concert I've ever seen in my life. And I actually, when Barb left, I was kind of tempted to go down with her, but I didn't want to leave my sister alone, of course, and Sarah didn't want to go down. So anyways, the concert went on, and towards about the end of the concert, and one of the 3 or 4, I think he did 3, where he came back after his set, I waited for a moment because the place was so loud, and the ladies and men, I guess, were screaming so loud that it was just, you were like in this vortex of passion and sweat and energy, and it was incredible. And so I waited for the right time as he would point his finger at various parts of the upper levels to say, hey, listen, everybody up there, I can see you, I love you, thank you, and everything. And he started on his left and worked us all the way around. And by the end, it was the last spotlight where I was sitting. And I kid you not, I waited for a little bit of quietness, and I yelled at my 12-year-old little pubescent voice. I said, hey, Elvis, don't forget us up here. And I just stood up and waved my arm, and he goes, I see you, little man. And he gave me one of these. and he gave me one of these. I see you, little man. And in the poster that you could buy at the Rose Garden was a photo of that spotlight in that area from another concert. And that's where I was. And I bought the poster. Of course, I put it up next to Bruce Lee on my wall. And we went down after the concert. It was crazy. 2 little kids, 12 and 10, with 25,000 people, a lot of them drunk and high and excited. And we found Barb, and she was lying somewhat passed out and and she said, oh, thank you guys. I was so worried about you. I said, we're worried about you. He goes, Elvis loves me. He told me he loved me, and he kissed me, and then I think some sweat or some saliva came out of his mouth and hit me in the forehead. I just dropped. And I swear to God,
did she need one of those ammonia inhalants?
I honestly, it's a true story. I believe her. She was delusional, and it was the most. And then the road trip back, and then unfortunately, we didn't know that it was Elvis's last tour. He still had to finish another half of the tour, and he passed tragically on the toilet apparently in August, a few months later.
It's not funny.
Yeah, so I had to start that off.
I think he was 44.
Yeah, pretty much. It was 444 is what he was. Yeah.
But his age was 44. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. That's.
I remember being at Henry Hudson, and Mr. Neighbor, our teacher, announced that Elvis had died. It was like the whole world stopped spinning.
I remember Mr. Neighbor.
It was like when Princess Diana died. It was just like the whole world stopped.
No, that's true. It's true. Or when Princess Diana got married. Same thing.
Yeah, so crazy.
Yeah, really crazy.
That's a great story.
It's a true story, and I'll hold it dear for the rest of my life. And God bless him. Rest in peace, Elvis. I love you.
Yeah, well, likewise. You told that very vividly. You paint quite a picture, Pauly. Well, in 1980, our mutual friend Brian and I, we went to see Queen at the Pacific Coliseum. I don't know how many thousands of people there were. Just a little background on Queen, courtesy of Wikipedia. Queen, our British rock band, formed in London in 1970 by Freddie Mercury, lead vocals, piano, Brian May, guitar vocals, and Roger Taylor, drums, vocals later joined by John Deacon. The earliest works were influenced by progressive rock, hard rock, and heavy metal, but the band gradually ventured into more conventional and radio-friendly works by incorporating a further styles such as arena rock and pop rock. I love every Queen song that's ever been made. Bohemian Rhapsody and the soundtrack to Flash Gordon and You're My Best Friend and on and on. It was an amazing experience. There were strobe lights. The only thing that was disappointing is that when they sang Bohemian Rhapsody, they actually, for some reason, I guess because Bohemian Rhapsody has so many horns and it's almost like a
It's a very complicated song, apparently.
Right. They actually walked off the stage and they played a recording for half the song. I remember people actually booed.
Wow.
Deservedly so, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're there to see a live concert.
That was one of the first, and the air was quite redolent with the smell of marijuana.
Of course it was. And was this in Vancouver? Where was it? Pacific Coliseum?
Yes, it was at the Pacific Coliseum. That's exactly right. And I went with our mutual friend, Brian.
Yeah.
We had a great time.
Brian Oak, excellent. Yeah, I just talked to him recently, by the way. He says hello.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that's incredible. I've never been a big Queen fan, but I tell you what, no, I love rock like you do. I know you like classic rock, but I fell into, in the late 60s, early 70s, I fell into a lot of Motown and old Southern rock like Led Zeppelin and that sort of thing. I was more into harder side on the rock side, but I love Motown, and I'll get into the next one. The next one I'll talk about is also way back in the day, and this one's really interesting because it's a piece of Vancouver history that nobody talks about. And in the there was a stadium where the Vancouver Whitecaps played professionally before they in the league that they're in now at the Empire Stadium at the Pacific National Expedition, what we call in Vancouver is the P&E. And the Whitecaps used to draw. I used to go with my big brother George, and we used to go to the Whitecaps. He had season tickets, and there'd be 32 to 35,000 people at the Empire Stadium. It was really an excellent, beautiful old venue. Unfortunately, it's torn down now. And but during that time, they also did concerts, and a lot of people don't realize that the Beatles came to Vancouver and played at the Empire Stadium in the 60s, and so did Elvis play it at the Empire Stadium in the 60s as well, and then after that at the Pacific Coliseum. But when Johnny and I started to get closer to graduating from high school at Kitsilano Secondary in the early 80s, in the summertime they used to have something called Summer Madness, and it was a weekend-long open festival at Empire Stadium. And it was the Summer Madness Tour, and every year they had different bands. And so on Friday, they would have a Friday set with major players and smaller opening bands. Then Saturday, it would be an all-day thing of 4 or 5 bands. And then Sunday to finish it off. So you bought one ticket, and it's festival seating, so you could go anywhere you want within the whole Empire Stadium. It was a pretty big space. There was probably 50,000 people outdoors. And talk about the pungent smell of marijuana. I mean, I was a young man at the time. I wasn't really partaking in any of that activity at that stage in high school, but I loved music. And, you know, the bands, listen to the bands. Talk about bringing us back, Johnny. So I'm not going to tell you which ones played on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I saw it multiple years. Okay. But I will tell you, the ticket cost me $55 for the entire weekend.
Yeah.
And
that was a lot of money back then.
And listen to who I got to see. A lot of these are Canadian bands, but some are international. Loverboy, Little River Band.
Oh, I was going to predict that one, actually.
Yeah, Trooper, Heart,
Mm.
Sammy Hagar, who did a lot of his Montrose stuff.
Heart recorded in Vancouver.
Yeah, they were incredible.
They were.
Brian Adams, of course, very young Brian Adams. Chilliwack. And I love Bill Henderson of Chilliwack, and I dated his daughter Saffron in high school, and was the love of my life in high school.
She was in that movie, The Rainbow War.
She's been in quite a few movies, and she's a very talented young lady, or was at that time. Who else? Chilliwack, Ted Nugent. I mentioned Elvis and the Beatles already. Supertramp, Bob Welsh, Nick Gilder, Krista Berg, April Wine, Triumph, Bachman Turner Overdrive, or as we called them, BTO.
Taking care of business.
The Guess Who. I mean, this is It was the best.
Brittany Cummings.
It was,
That is an all-star lineup.
and that was the week I would go for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I was a young man. I wasn't into drinking and partaking in any sort of adjustments. I was just really into the music, but everybody else was. It was kind of like a Canadian version of Woodstock. And honestly, to be able to see that kind of talent in a weekend and do that for a few years, it was extraordinary. Unfortunately, they tore down the Empire Stadium and no longer do that. But that is, in my opinion, in my late 70s, early 80s, probably the second best concert I've ever been to in my life.
Wow, that's an incredible story. I'm sorry I missed out on that. Okay, well, around 1980, again, giving a shout out to our mutual brother, Brian. Believe it or not, Pauly, we went to see Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre, and it was an amazing experience. Frankie Valli had one of the most amazing voices ever. He was born, okay, I'm going to try not to screw up his name. Here we go. It's very multi-symbolic. Francesco Stephen Castelluccino, who was born in May 3rd, 1934, better known by his stage name Frankie Valli, is an American singer and occasional actor, best known as the lead vocalist of the Four Seasons, one hit after another. He is known for his unusually powerful falsetto voice. Here's some of his songs. I had Frankie Valli's greatest hits on LP when I was a boy, on 33. Must have listened to it 1,000 times. Some of my favorite songs. Here we go. Sherry, Big Girls Don't Cry, Walk Like a Man, Rag Doll, and is absolutely one of the greatest pop singles of all time. December 1963, Oh What a Night. Can't Take My Eyes Off You.
Oh, what a night. Yeah.
My Eyes Adored You. And of course, who could forget Grease is the word that you heard. Remember Grease from 1970?
Yeah, of course.
I saw that movie 50 times.
Yeah, didn't we all?
So that's my next choice. So
that is a piece of history right there. Yeah. And that was with our mutual.
We went to a lot of concerts back in the day.
I know. We should next time I come to Vancouver, we should get together and hang out.
I would love to do that.
I've talked to him about it. He said yes.
Okay.
So the next one, well, that was very interesting. I had no idea, and I do know them, never seen them. They were old school.
Yesterday, because preparing for the podcast, I completely forgotten about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a lot of what I'm going to mention is probably going to bring back some memories. The next one is one that I saw when I met my wife. When I was down, I retired from professional basketball in 1999. I played professional basketball from 1993 to 1990, 7 seasons. In the British Basketball League and in Austria. And I was turning 37, and I was like, man, I got to find a way to get a life because I can't keep floating around this world. I hadn't worked for 8 years. I just played professional basketball. They paid me to play professional basketball, so that's what I did. And, of course, when that gravy train ends, the reality of life becomes more prevalent. So I had a ticket remaining from my last contract with the London Towers of the British Basketball League, which is now called the Super League. And I flew. I was running a hostel in St. Ives in Cornwall, the sister hostel to Newquay, from an old friend of mine. And when I retired from basketball, he offered me a job. It was £300 a week, which was a pretty good salary. And I had my own private room, and it was a 128-bed hostel in an old Wesleyan boys and girls school. I ran that for 8 months, had the most amazing eclipse summer of my life at that stage. I bought a camper van, a Mercedes camper van, a diesel, and I was going to go travel the UK. And then all of a sudden I said, hey, I got a flight. I got a free flight. Why don't I just take this time? Because the season finished in St. Ives in November. And guess what season started in November or thereabouts? South Beach, working under the table as a bartender or a waiter. Because I was able to get away with it. I was a minority in South Beach in that I was white, heterosexual, and North American.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. I'm just saying I was a minority. I knew it. It was quite obvious what the whole scene was down there. But at the end of the day, I was living in a hostel. I was working under the table, and I was making money. And I met my wife, and she flew back with me to the UK. I picked up my camper van, and that's 27 years ago. And it's at the end of the day, as soon as we went, I met her in South Beach, right when I went there, and we decided to date, and I ended up moving in with her, and we bought a vehicle, and we were ready to go back to Vancouver. Before we do that, there was a concert in West Palm Beach, very exclusive area just north of South Beach on the coast of Florida. And we bought tickets to see one of the most amazing concerts I've ever seen, and that was Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Wow.
And it was live in West Palm Beach, and they started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 4 o'clock, where there was still light for a couple hours.
That's unusually early.
And, well, it's because they wanted the transition from the light to the dark because of the wall.
Did they have the pig flying across?
It was unbelievable, Johnny. They had everything. They had the whole... In the daytime, it was like a different concert. And then when the nighttime happened, it was actually at that time, being a veteran and so on, and my wife is teetotal and her girlfriend's teetotal. It was one of the few concerts of my life where I was like completely sober, and it was an extraordinary experience. Sorry?
I said that's no fun.
Well, I mean, sometimes you got to try new things, and it's not like the first time. It was just, sometimes you have a tendency to want to adjust the coherence of the situation, and everyone has their own way of doing it. It could be coffee, it could be mushrooms, or it could be something else. In this case, it was coffee, and he put the concert on for 4.5 hours. He played, and by the time it finished, it was dark, and it was extraordinary. The stars were out. It was a beautiful Florida day. One of the best concerts I've ever seen in my life. And the visual effects and the money they spent on it, it's extraordinary.
Wow, that is an amazing story.
Yeah.
Okay, well, believe it or not, Pauly, I don't think you know this, but in 1979, my mother and I, my mother, Donna Leister, who passed away a few years ago, we went to Concord, California to visit my aunt and uncle. And believe it or not, we saw the Beach Boys in California.
Wow.
Now, just reading a little bit of the history of the Beach Boys from a Wikipedia here.
Yeah.
Here we go. The Beach Boys formed as a garage band centered on Brian Wilson's songwriting and managed by the Wilsons' father, Murray. I'm just scrolling up a little bit here, starting at the start. The Beach Boys, an American rock band formed in Hawthorne, California in 1961. The group's original lineup consisted of Brian, Dennis, and Carl Wilson, their cousin Mike Love, and their friend Al Jardine, all superstars. Distinguished by the vocal harmonies, adolescent-oriented lyrics, and musical ingenuity, they are one of the most influential acts of the rock era, no kidding. The group drew on the music of pre-rock vocal groups, 1950s rock and roll, and black R&B to create their own unique sound. Under Brian's direction, they often incorporated classical or jazz elements and unconventional recording techniques in innovative ways. It was an outdoor theater. There were thousands of people. There was only 2 of the original Beach Boys were present, Mike Love and Brian Wilson. And Brian Wilson was playing piano. And I remember this. I'll remember this like it was yesterday. He was yawning. He was actually yawning. Well, during the concert, and then he didn't cover his mouth. He's like, "I'm singing this effing song again. I'm singing this song for the 9 billionth time." And
exactly.
You get paid to do this, okay? You get paid.
I know, but at the end of the yawn, he realizes I just made $2.5 million. So,
but that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty cool one. We're dropping some big names. I'm gonna drop some big names too. But I want to go back into when we were still in high school, Johnny, in grade 11. And the Pacific Coliseum, where the Vancouver Canucks played until they moved over to Rogers Arena, which is 1 block from my condo downtown. It's a really nice area. It's like super convenient. But I was into heavy metal and hard rock growing up as I got into like Zeppelin and old AC/DC and I loved heavy metal as well. And this concert came up, and I was with a bunch of musician friends of mine. They're Greeks. And he calls me up and he goes, "Paul, I got an extra ticket. One of the guys, bounced. Are you interested? It's tonight." And I'm like, "Oh man, well, I don't have practice, but what's the deal? When's it starting?" He goes, "Who's playing?" And he goes, "Well, Scorpions are the headliner at the Pacific Coliseum, and Nazareth is opening up for them." And I'm like, "Oh, you're kidding me!" I'm like, my God. So the first thing I did was, yes. What are you gonna? Is somebody gonna pick me up, or do I got to take the bus to East Hastings to get to the Coliseum? He goes, "We'll try to pick you up, but if we can't, you might as well take the bus. It's better to be on time than not. We'll meet you at this gate." Blah blah blah. And Nazareth. I mean, I love Nazareth, and I love the Scorpions, and we did get liquefied that night. We had I believe it was rum and cokes, Bacardi White. And Coke, and I was not a big drinker, and I'm a lightweight when it comes to drinking. So, and I really don't like most alcoholic beverages. I don't like the taste of it, and I certainly didn't like rum. But I was like, whatever, man. Let's just get lit and and I'm sure we might have done something else, maybe a little bit of weed, because I know the Greek guys they're all weed heads back then. And Nazareth started, and I remember watching the first couple of songs, and then I fell asleep. I passed out. I guess I was drunk or high or both. And then at the encore, they did their big hit, This Night Tonight, and the place just exploded. And I woke up and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to watch the headliner and not miss. And I said no more of any of the stuff. And then Scorpions started, and everybody's just going crazy. Everybody's doing bathroom breaks. Everybody's smoking weed. The place is it's insane, and it was a great show. And the Scorpions were like the number one heavy metal band at the time in the world at that time. And they're British. And the lead singer, the lights go on and everything's happening. The lights are off, and all of a sudden the smoke machines come on, and he comes right out of the stage, and he's got his mic. And then the drummer comes out. And then they all come out, and all of a sudden it is 2 hours of every single one of the Scorpions hits. And it was the best heavy metal concert I've seen up in that point in my life. And I learned a valuable lesson. Before a concert, don't get overly adjusted at all. It's not worth it, especially when you're like 18, whatever. Anyways, great concert.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in 1983, believe it or not, and I'm pretty sure this was at Pacific Coliseum, me and my quasi-girlfriend at the time, Carol, we went to see Tears for Fears.
Wow.
Tears for Fears, an English new wave band formed in Bath. I guess that's in England. 1981.
It is. It's a beautiful little town.
Oh, okay. Kurt Smith and Roland Osborne, I want to say, founded after the dissolution of their first band, the mod-influenced Graduate. Tears for Fears were associated with the synth-pop bands of the 1980s and attained international chart success as part of the second British invasion. Of course, two of the hit songs, Everybody Wants to Rule the World and Shout. The one memory I have of going to this concert is that it was general admission, and I just remember like being a sardine. I was like in the midst of all these people, and I remember thinking, I really did not have a good time. I don't want to be here. Literally, I couldn't move.
You didn't have any personal space.
I felt like David Banner, and I was just about to Hulk out and go on a rampage. I remember when the concert ended.
That would have been funny.
I mean, the music was great, but I was just so relieved to get it.
Yeah. They are good, and I actually, they were, if we did a list of 20 or 30, they would have been in my top 20 because I saw them as well, and I really liked them. They actually did a show with Depeche Mode.
Oh, sweet.
And opened for Depeche Mode because Depeche Mode was on fire in the world at that time until they found the Colombian nose candy.
Oh, that's too bad. A Pain That I'm Used To is one of my all-time favorite songs.
Oh, yeah, man.
Right? It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, staying on the heavy metal vibe for a sec, Brooke Riggins, my dear old friend, I've known for as long as I've known Johnny, calls me up and he goes, man, you wouldn't guess who's playing at the Kerrisdale Arena? And I'm like, wow, it's got to be a basketball game or a hockey game, or because it's a small arena, right? In Kerrisdale. And he goes, you interested in seeing the headline is Ozzy Osbourne, right?
Wow.
When Ozzy was, still doing it. And the second band was Iron Maiden with the best lead singer of Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson. Beautiful voice. And the opening was this thrash metal trio of girls. There was 4 of them, actually. And they were called Girl School. And they were just like black leather and greasy hair and over-the-top makeup and just thrash metal. And so Brooke and I get there, and we're sitting in this arena, and there's maybe, with the seats, there's maybe 3,000, and then the floor, it's all Hell's Angels and gangsters on their motorcycles. And they allowed them to drive their motorcycles into arena, and they put down sawdust. And then the opening band, Girl School, came out, and it got everybody going. You could see there was fights going on the whole concert. Guys would just go, because it was more than one motorcycle gang, right? There was probably 4, and the cops were there, and it was just pandemonium. And Brooke and I just remember thinking, this is going to be an unbelievable concert. And it really wasn't the greatest concert, but what a spectacle for the eyes. So when Girl School finished, they did a short set, maybe 35 minutes, Iron Maiden came on, and Eddie, Eddie, the Iron Maiden. It's like he looks like a zombie, Frankenstein zombie, and he's like 30 foot. And Eddie comes onto the stage, and the music's going, and the place is going crazy. And Bruce Dickinson abseils from the ceiling, it's Carousel Arena. It's like 3,500 people, and he lands down, and he does that signature voice of his, and the place kicks off. And that was just the second band. And the fights are going on. The cops are coming. They had to stop the concert for a sec because there were so many fights. It was like we were in the Gladiators. We were in Rome 2,000 years ago.
Did you get hurt? Were you injured?
No, Brooke and I were sitting off to the side of the stage, up around the fourth or fifth row. Pretty good view.
Yeah.
We just had some metalhead sitting right in front of me, and his whole outfit, including his hat, his jacket, his pants, shoes, everything was covered in heavy metal stickers or soap patches, right? And he was just going nuts the whole time, and I'm like trying to watch the concert, and I'm like, oh shit, and it's packed, right? So finally, Ozzy Osbourne comes on, and he's just absolutely obliterated. He's hammered. He's definitely drunk. Probably they all are. I don't know. But he does Crazy Train, and he does a whole bunch of all his stuff. He did all his old stuff from Black Sabbath. And my God, at the end of that concert, there was ambulances, there was people getting arrested, there was people passed out on the floor. Someone had stolen one of the HA's motorcycles. It was absolute pandemonium. It was without a doubt the best heavy metal concert I have ever seen. Like hardcore heavy metal. In a small venue. Nobody talks about it. True story. Brooke would love it.
Well, you certainly paint a picture. Okay, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. Our mutual friends, Jeff and Keith and I want to say this was around 1985. We went to the
Jeff
Commodore...
Manook and Keith Pickford?
We went to the Commodore Ballroom where we in 1983, where we had a grad night. And
my favorite venue in Vancouver, by the way.
It's very nice. And we saw Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers was born Joan Alexandra Malinsky, 1933, passed away in 2014. Known professionally as Joan Rivers, was an American comedian, actress.
She was great.
Can we talk? Producer, writer, and
with that Jewish New York twang, eh?
She was very smart and very funny.
She was
noted for her blunt. She was blunt with a capital B. Often controversial comedic persona. I remember she was at. I'm just remembering this now. She was hosting the Australian version of the Academy Awards. And the Australian version of the Academy Awards is like the antithesis of the Oscar. You know the Oscar, like gold stuff?
Yeah, it's all fancy and yeah.
But the Australian... No, I'm not dissing Australia. I love Australia.
No.
I'm telling a story. The Australian Academy Award is like something you get at a dollar store. It's this little plastic... It almost looks like a sex toy. And so when Joan Rivers... she was hosting... This event, and there were hundreds of people in the audience, and all the men are in tuxedos, and all the women look like Scarlett O'Hara. She looked at this award, and she actually threw it behind her, and it was like pissing on the Australian flag. Like the reaction, you could tell it was spontaneous.
Of course.
I don't think it was rehearsed. I think she just did it spontaneously. The reaction was like, this could be war. This could actually start a war. You could tell that like some people laughed, but it was kind of polite laughter.
Yeah, the Aussies they don't take kindly to the
but very
ostentatious funny. American East Coast.
And one of the movies that was nominated for Best Picture. I don't know where I saw this. I guess I saw this on a DVD. It was a biography. I was watching a biography, but I was such a fan of hers. One of the movies that was nominated was called Spick and Span. And when she read the list, she went, and the next nominee is Something and Span. And it said like Spick and Span on the screen.
Yeah.
Because I guess in Australia that's not considered a racist thing to say. Wow. So her controversial comedic persona was heavily self-deprecating and acerbic, especially towards celebrities and politicians, delivered in her signature New York accent. I remember when Joan Rivers passed away, I cried. I thought a little light has gone out of the world. She's considered a pioneer of women in comedy. She received an Emmy Award and a Grammy Award, as well as a nomination for a Tony Award. We saw this at the Commodore Ballroom, I want to say 1985. and we were just killing ourselves laughing. It was one of the most joyful experiences of my life.
Well, that's a really interesting one. And by the way, Johnny, we graduated from Kitsilano High School and we celebrated in the Commodore in 1983.
I remember.
Yeah, you do. Okay.
I do. Well, vaguely.
I actually remember a lot more than I should have probably, but it was crazy. But that's a really interesting one, and I love the Commodore Ballroom. I was actually going to bring up the Marley family, Bob Marley and all of his sons. He's got like 12 kids or something, and all of them performed at Eddie Romagnoli and I, and Dan and his friend Wolf. We all went. It was one of the greatest concerts I've seen in the Commodore Ballroom because the floor moved. It had a horsehair on it. You could bounce. It was such a great room, but that was a really interesting. I really liked her too, and I'm just going to go back for the remainder of mine are all ones that I saw close to my condo downtown in Vancouver at the Rogers Arena, and the first one I saw was at BC Place. The only time I've ever seen what some may say is the greatest rock band in the history of music, and that is the Rolling Stones. Wow. Once again, they're still touring. It's incredible. The Rolling Stones. What's that?
They seem to be immortal. They're like from like Highlander.
It's incredible. I mean, anyway, so I said, what the hell? And I didn't want to go see it in BC Place because I knew it would be 60,000 plus people in there. And BC Place has really not very good sound. This is the old BC Place before the new one, right? With the new roof and everything. This is in 2015. And I saw the Rolling Stones. Once again, I got the worst ticket in the 60,000 other people in the thing. I was at the very top seat at the very back of the thing on the fifth. I couldn't be any taller. If I was any taller, I could go on the roof. And it was just reverberation. I could hardly even see anyone. I should have brought anyways, it was a very disappointing concert. But at least I got to see the Rolling Stones live.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one more. We're coming up on 41 minutes, and then I think I'm done.
I got two more.
I want to say 1980. Jeff,
three more.
Our mutual friend Steve Heckman. I hope he doesn't mind me giving him a shout out. Believe it or not, we went to UBC.
Haven't heard that name in a while.
We went to UBC War Memorial, and guess who we saw live? Giving not a concert, more of a lecture. We saw Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, one of the greatest men of all time. Born in 1921, passed away in 1991. He was an American television screenwriter and producer who created the science fiction series and fictional universe Star Trek. Born in El Paso, Texas, Roddenberry grew up in L.A., where his father was a police officer. Gene was also a police officer, believe it or not, before he entered show business. He was also served his country during World War II. He flew 89 combat missions in the Army Air Forces during World War II and worked as a commercial pilot after the war. Later, he joined the LA Police Department and began to write for television. It was a very surreal experience. Of course, you know that I'm a fanatical about Star Trek, mostly the original series, which I grew up on. And so we were like 3 rows from the front. There were not that many people there, maybe 100 or so fellow nerds. It was kind of like attending one. It was not like Comic-Con, like the way it is today, where thousands of people show up. Star Trek back then was definitely a cult kind of thing.
Yeah. Especially for you and all the other cults.
Like back then, it was very... you almost felt like you were part of this weird group that nobody wanted to be around.
I always felt that it was a good show. I just always felt that there wasn't enough content on three or four channels, and I was forced to watch it when it was really a lot of it was just crap, in my opinion. But I'd rather watch Space 1999 or I forgot the name of the one where they used to the beginning of the show. I don't know if it was Mission Impossible, but I think it was a science fiction show, Johnny. And we talked about this once before, where the show would start. And they would go through this tube in their basement and open the tube and jump in it and put on their thing and go to their ship. And it was like, that's how the show started. Do you ever remember that?
Genesis 2 was in the future. I remember that
it was a science fiction series.
Yeah.
Television series, I think.
Okay. No.
Anyways.
Very good. Gene was very eloquent and very charming. And he made eye contact with everyone. And he talked about his life and encouraged everyone, to follow their bliss and to be true to themselves. And so that was really a very wonderful experience.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it's not a musical experience. Did Gene at least sing?
No, he did not sing. We got to see the original unaired pilot for Star Trek, though, where Jeffrey Hunter, who was actually cast as Captain Pike before William Shatner, which was really cool. It was on 16 millimeter.
Well, that's a nice memory for you, bro. I'm going to get back to music. The next one I'm just going to do are all three, and believe me, I saw so many more. Living a block from Rogers Arena, my wife and I have seen so many concerts since 2009, even before that when we didn't live downtown. But the next one I want to talk about is an iconoclast singer and performer, a British chap, British Greek. And this is just prior to him, unfortunately, passing later that year at Christmas from cocaine overdose or fentanyl. I don't know. But it was Mr. George Michael. And this was in 2017-18. And he played Rogers Arena. It was his last tour as well. And we saw him just before. My wife and I got great seats and tickets. And we were so close to him, we felt that he was actually looking at us on occasion. And he put on just an amazing show. What a talented guy. What a beautiful voice. What a beautiful human being. What a handsome man. And just lost another iconoclast. But it was an incredible concert, and I'm glad I got to see it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Certainly. I actually made a mistake because I downloaded Beatlemania. Brian, but I'm just going to wing this because it's the information that I have on my phone is not in sync with what I want to say. But Brian and I also saw Beatlemania back in the day. It was a faux. It was four guys actually pretending to be the original Beatles.
Yeah.
And they sang every Beatles hit. We saw this at the Queen Elizabeth Theater.
Yeah.
And they sounded. I mean, it was almost like watching the Beatles live. That's how good they were. I remember they were very controversial. Remember Beatlemania? I remember they were.
I do. Yeah. I never saw them, but I do. Yeah.
They were very controversial. A lot of the hardcore Beatles fans were upset, and I kind of get that. But man, it was like watching the live Beatles.
It's like all good cover bands. People get there's well, damn, I can't see AC/DC. Well, let's go see AC/DC. Right. They're a pretty good cover band.
Yeah,
it's better than nothing, right?
And I remember there was a screen behind them, and it would show like montages of all kinds of images from the 1960s. You know, the protests and the sit-ins.
Cool. Yeah.
And it was a very trippy experience to say the least.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
The next one I want to talk about is going back to Rogers Arena. I saw in 2019. I saw for the very first time, and I did see them briefly at Expo 86. And I was going to bring up who I saw at Expo 86. I saw Annie Lennox in the Eurythmics. I saw Smokey Robinson. I saw Earth, Wind, and Fire. I saw so many good concerts down at in Falls Creek there at the Expo 86. But this one, my wife goes, oh man, Earth, Wind, and Fire. We both love Earth, Wind, and Fire. They're coming to Vancouver. They're playing at Rogers. And Chicago opened for Earth, Wind, and Fire, which is really interesting. Chicago was another excellent American band. And they did a lot of like soft rock, jazz. They had a lot of instruments. They had trombones and violins, and they took operatic rock.
Like an orchestra.
Yeah, pretty much. And really talented musicians and soulful music. And they were a bunch of white dudes for the most part, but they were as soulful as you could be. And man, they did a great job opening for Earth, Wind, and Fire. And the beautiful thing about the opening was they played with Earth, Wind, and Fire and stayed on the same stage for 3 or 4 songs.
That's incredible.
And it was unbelievable, man. There was like 20,000. My wife and I, we danced the entire concert. It was fantastic. And Bootsy Collins, the bassist for Earth, Wind, and Fire, was typically electric. He was wearing 11-inch heels. He had fucking stars coming out of his head. He was and smiling and sweating. It was just an unbelievable concert. And I've got one more.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any more?
No, I think I'm done.
All right, so
this. I say that September and Feeling Stronger Every Day, 2 of my all-time favorite songs.
Yeah, no doubt. And this, an old friend of mine invited me to this, and I was never a Who fan, although I did appreciate the legacy and the rock and roll history that the Who was and is still today, but I've never seen them. And he calls me up and he's like, dude, I got a free ticket. My other guy backed out. I know you live a block away. You want to come see? And he goes, yeah, sure. How much do I got to pay? And he goes, are you paying for it? And he goes, no. I'm like, dude, you don't invite someone on a ticket that you've already paid for somebody else and then make me pay for the ticket. He goes, why not? And he goes, I forgot. It's a cultural thing. And I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, we went out and saw the concert. And, for not being a total Hugh fan, I knew a lot of their music. I saw. What was the movie? What was the movie?
Quadrophenia.
Thank you.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
God.
Oh, that's one of my all-time favorite movies.
My God, was that good, eh?
Yeah,
Anyways, they did a bunch from that, and it blew me away, man. The sound, that arena, Flavia, our condo is just above Rogers Arena, and we're just a block away.
Right.
She could hear the entire concert. She'd go out and sit on the balcony and listen to a couple of songs because she was even from Italy, The Who was very popular. It was that Brit pop, Brit rock vibe. And that's it, Johnny. That's all I got today. I think that was a great episode.
Yeah, thank you.
And no, thank you. And we're going to wrap things up. And thank you very much for joining us. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. And this gentleman to my left is one of the most extraordinary writers I've ever met in my life and a good friend of over 53 years, Mr. Johnny Leister, the co-host of The Most. The Canadian Bro Show, for those that don't know, and we'd like you to come back, 90% of people that watch the show are not subscribed. So please if you're watching the show, drop a subscribe. Help us out. It really helps the algorithms. Our goal is to get to, or my goal is to get to 500 subscriptions. We're at 125. And, baby steps. And we're starting to...
5 more than last year.
I mean, seriously. And at the end of the day, we appreciate anybody's subscription, like, comment, share, notify if you really enjoy it. And we will answer every single comment. But in the meantime, thank you, Johnny, for having a very fun, nostalgic, and true reflection of the history of music in our own minds. As a couple of 60-year-old dudes that looking back on the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and plus. And it was really fun to go down that journey and discovery of how rock and roll and funk and Motown and heavy metal, all of it just came together, and it changed our lives. It allowed us to grow into the humans that we are today, and it gave us a sense of urgency with regards to the arts. And at the Canadian Bro Show, Johnny and I, we do all things Canadian, which is really about Canadian pop culture in any way we can. This is our 67th episode, and then, of course, the second iteration of the Canadian Bro Show was all basketball with the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Raleigh. And Trent Raleigh is a good friend of mine of about 45 years. He's in St. Paul, Alberta. We do the basketball, all basketball from the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Raleigh, and we've done 47 episodes on that as well. So... yeah, it's pretty impressive, and we're excited about this journey. And once again, I'm going to cut this short. And thank you again. And before we go, Johnny, did you want to? Johnny is a prolific writer, and he's a professional writer. And on the ticker below, you can see where you can get him on Facebook at Johnny's Way and YouTube. And if you reach out to him, if you comment, reach out to him, he'd be happy to. Share some of his literary talents and sell some of his prolific writing. Johnny, do you have something you want to share with everyone before we go today?
Thank you so much. So if you're watching the show for the first time, I'm a self-published author. I write a series of crime fiction. My hero is Lee Hacklin. He lives during the 1970s, and he's in his mid-20s. He's a smoker, drinker, ladies' man. He has a heart of gold. And he likes to help.
Keep it going. I'm just going to grab my book.
Sure thing. I'll wait till...
Go ahead.
Oh, sure. So I'm writing another Lee Hacklin mystery. This one is called Locker Room Mystery. And I'll just wait until Paul comes back. And for anyone out there who wants to be a self-published author, I highly recommend Draft to Digital. I started off initially with Amazon. And I know a lot of people still use Amazon, and they think it's great, but I had some, for whatever reason, I had some hiccups with them. And so now I use Draft to Digital. Anybody out there who wants to be a self-published author, it's free, it's easy to use, and what they do is they springboard your books to different platforms. So here we go. He's back. There he is. So my latest Lee Hacklin, which I started yesterday, is called Locker Room Mystery. Here we go, Chapter 1. New York City, 1979. Faith and Bagora, Lee. That's the two of them. Jesus. There's two more in the mix. I'm scared. Everyone's scared sometimes, Mrs. McLean. Even real-life superheroes like myself. I'm going outside. Don't worry, I'm good at this. Stay by the window. If I look at you, call 911. That's what I did last time. They put me on hold. Please just do what I say, ma'am. Lock the door behind me and close the curtains. There might be violence, and kids get enough of that on television these days. Her name was Kate McLean. She was on the cusp of her twilight years and built like a cast iron stove. She was a kindergarten teacher at Henry Hudson Grade School in New Jersey. One of her students was 4-year-old Mike Weiss. He was the victim of a recent kidnapping attempt. Her would-be abductors were Clark and Lois Peters. Clark was her second husband. My client was her first, and Mike's father, who was in my office.
I got that, by the way. I got both of those.
When I married Lois, she was a diamond in the rough. Now she's just the rough. Booze and sleeping pills turned her into a psychopath. I divorced her to protect Mike. She was physically abusing him. A couple weeks back, they showed up at his school and tried to take him. They chickened out when a cop car just happened to drive by. I filed a restraining order, but it's taking forever to process. I don't even know if it would make a difference. Luckily, it was nap time and the kids were zonked out. It was September and chilly. I zipped up my Pele track jacket, headed out and greeted the far from Fantastic Four as they alighted from a dented and dinged VW. I showed them my license. It never failed to unimpress. Good morning, I'm Lee Hacklin. In case you haven't heard, kidnapping is illegal. Lois Peters was blonde, bony, and bellicose. She threw a lit Pall Mall at my feet and screeched, "I'm taking Mike, he's mine, and there's not an effing thing you can do to stop me. Boys, there's a thorn in my thumb, pluck it out." Her man and his friends fished out switchblades from their back pockets. Flick, flick, flick. They were fat, they were sloppy, and I barely broke a sweat as I did what I did best. Take it away, Bachman Turner Overdrive. Very appropriate for a podcast. Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business
BTO!
every way. 10 minutes later, I was giving my statement to New York's finest. Clark Peters and his fellow model citizens were strapped to gurneys. Their faces were under sheets. As for Lois, so that's what a nervous breakdown looks like. The younger cop pointed his pen at me. Was it really necessary to kill them? If a man approaches you with a knife in his hand, it's prudent to conclude that his intentions are less than honorable. You're welcome. Gratitude, thou art as scarce as a mint-condition copy of Action Comics #1. Never mind. The world is a little brighter today. And that's really, chapter 1 of Locker Room Mystery.
That's really good, Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, to finish up, if you want, reach out to Johnny, make a comment.
You suck!
his character is really good, Lee Hacklin. I mean, it could be a retro 70s New York, Manhattan, handsome guy that's got the feathered haircut and chain smokes, has a Browning, and is a good guy, but a bit of a, he's a little. He's basically what Johnny is.
He's an idealized version of myself.
And well, there you go. Thank you. And before we finish, Johnny likes to do a pun. We haven't had a single comment in 110 videos, but some people must enjoy it. I certainly have on occasion. What do you have for us today, Johnny?
Okay. The shortest sentence in the English language is I am. The longest sentence in the English language is I do. You're welcome.
I like that. That's good.
That's courtesy of Al Bundy.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's coming from Mr. John Leister, the only person I know that has his own private studio in the Vancouver Public Library. In fact, any library in the world. For some reason, he gets carte blanche VIP status, and we love it because it looks like I'm filming from Kelowna in my studio, my third bedroom in my house, upstairs, and Johnny is in his own private studio, and glad to have him. In the meantime, everybody, if you enjoyed this content, please help us out and subscribe and like and comment and share and notify, all that fun stuff. And we're pumping out 2, sometimes 3 episodes a week. And we appreciate, any love that you can share with us. In the meantime, the last thing we like to do before we leave is to share with our mantra here at the Canadian Bro Show, and what should be the mantra of everybody else in this world, in this madness, and what's going on in this world, especially down south, is we just want to say, be kind out there, be generous, be friendly, be patient, and don't expect anything for that. Make somebody's day. We don't know what's going on in somebody else's world. It might be just absolutely horrific. Give them a hug. Tell them that they look great. Pick up a bag or press the stop sign. If it's an older person and it's an amber, step out in front of them and hold the cars. Just do something kind. Don't expect from it. It'll change this world for a better place.
I don't do this every day, but every once in a while I'll comment on somebody's shoes. I'll be standing in line at Starbucks, and if I'm really bored, It doesn't care if a man is woman. I'll actually point to the shoes. They said those are nice shoes,
Yeah.
and like their body language elates.
I know you said that a couple episodes ago, and you're absolutely right, Johnny.
You make a little kind comment to someone, and you've
It's
made
just
their
beautiful.
day.
Yeah, dude,
it's worth
it makes your day too.
And it comes back to you. It absolutely goes in a circle.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, guys, we're going to close up, and I love that, Johnny. Once again, thanks again for being the host with the most, and thanks everybody for joining. My name is Paul Bale, the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show, and thank you for joining and thank you for watching. And you can see the subscribe button up there. It means a lot to us. 500 subscriptions, and we can take it to the next level, and I can actually hire a producer and someone to help us out technically.
Cool.
But baby steps. And so Johnny, thanks kindly. We're gonna go, and I'm gonna take you out of the scene, and then I'm gonna remove myself from the scene. And by the way, before I do that, the backdrop is excuse me, the 40th floor of Paris Place in downtown Vancouver in Crosstown is the photo that you're looking at. It's simply extraordinary. One of my real estate photographers gave me the rights for this, and one other, so I use it as a backdrop because, I live in the downtown urban core, and I live in Kelowna, and my Kelowna one's a lot different. But, Johnny, thanks again. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care. See you later, everybody. Thank you kindly. And what a fun show. What good memories. And we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.